Okay, so I may or may not be the worst person in the world. A month ago, no, more like 3 weeks ago, I posted my Q&A video that I said, ask me questions, I will answer them. And you guys left way more questions than I thought you would, so thank you for that. But I'm just finally getting around to answering them, so let's do that. So, like I said in the video, I'm gonna be addressing why I have the name Bobby Broccoli. As one person put it, out of all the vegetables, fruits, and every food item there is, why do you choose a broccoli to represent you/your channel? So the story behind Bobby Broccoli is that back in like 8th grade, which is like 2010 for me, I had just finished 8th grade and I needed to do something in the summer because my mom didn't want me sticking at home all summer, which is reasonable, right? So what she did, my mom enrolled me in 2 different camps at a local college. And the first one was Mad Skills Cartooning Camp. That is the actual name. It was spelled with a Z. And the second one was a cooking camp. And luckily this campus had like, it actually had like an in-house kitchen. They have a restaurant where the students who go there for culinary studies can actually just serve people food, which that's really cool. So the cooking camp, I mean, that's not really related to the name, but I just really liked cooking, and cooking was cool. So that was a fun camp. But the Mad Skills Cartooning Camp, basically there was an instructor, I forget her name, I will put her name up on the screen, but she was a cartoonist for many years, and she was instructing the camp, and she basically just walked us through different techniques for writing comics, and it was basically just like a couple weeks for you to have fun and just make your own comic using different styles, so like single panel stuff, you know, like The Far Side, which is a fantastic comic series. But I was always more interested as a kid in the regular newspaper format, the like 3 panels or like 4 panels or whatever, but it was like telling a story with very distinct characters. Like, I grew up reading a lot of these comics, so Calvin and Hobbes, Baby Blues, Zitz, Sherman's Lagoon, Pooch Cafe, Dilbert, Pickles, Pearls Before Swine, so many comics. I have a lot of comics that I really loved growing up, and I always drew inspiration from these characters. So at this camp, I made a comic strip called Bobby Broccoli. And if you haven't seen my website, it's bobby-broccoli.com. All my comics that I made between the year of like 2010 to 2012, as well as a couple more I made later on. They should be up there, so you can look at them there, and I actually have like commentary that I wrote back when I made them about my thought process for them. So basically, I made comics that were inspired by the comics I grew up loving as a kid, and that's where the name Bobby Broccoli came from, because he was the main character. He was a piece of shit broccoli who always tried to con his friends out of money, and he was like kind of a dumbass, but also really smart at the same time, and I always really liked that character in comics. I find that Bobby is like, he's the only like kind of interesting character in that series, because like his 2 best friends, Peter the potato and Chris the carrot, they're both the same character. They're both the straight man. They're like the foil to him. They're the ones who like aren't gonna deal with his shit. And I don't know, this comic really stuck with me. So the Bobby Broccoli comic was basically the first time that I ever did something and posted it online regularly. It was a thing that I devoted my time to. At one point I was like trying to make 20 comics a week. Like, I would try to do 2 in a day, and then I got down to like 1 a day, and slowly I lost a bit of interest, but it never like went away completely. So when I like over the years, I would always make my username on websites Bobby Broccoli, just as a rule, because I like doing that. And if you actually look at the first name, the first video on this channel, it's an advertisement for my website, which I posted over 5 years ago at this point. And actually I made a new channel that was like kind of a variation on Bobby Broccoli, because I lost the password for this account. But years later, when I wanted to make a YouTube, like restart doing YouTube, I found I remember the old email that I made this account with and got the account back. So that's where this account came from. Yes, that's my story about where the name Bobby Broccoli comes from. I'm usually that username on most sites. I'm on that on Newgrounds, not that on Twitter, Reddit, because people took that username. I'm that on like the Wii U. So yeah, if you ever see Bobby Broccoli somewhere, it's either Bobby Broccoli with an I at the end, or Bobby Broccoli with an E at the end. So that's usually me. And now let's address what is by far the most common question I got, or a variation of, will you take requests? And the short answer is no. I'm sorry, I can't take requests. Now, let me explain myself a bit. See, I would love to cover every single game you guys want me to, but I just don't have the time. I'm in school full-time. When I'm not in school full-time, which is very busy, I basically have almost no time to work on videos, I'm working. So right now I'm working full-time on a co-op job, so the only time I really have to work on videos is after work, when I'm already tired and I have other things to do. So unfortunately, the only videos I have time to make or even really want to make because I'm motivated to do it is the videos on games that I really love or like I really have something important to say about it. So I can't just do a review of every random game you want, and I'm sorry, I know it sucks, because you guys seem to like my videos and you want to hear my thoughts on them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run through all the requests I get and just give a quick comment about the things, just so you can have something, like something from me. Will you ever do a Sly Cooper review? Probably not, because I've only played one of them a bit at a friend's house, but I've seen a lot of it, like in videos online. It seems like a really cool series. Art style's really neat. Can you do a review of Splatoon, please? Sure. Splatoon's really fucking good. One of the best Nintendo games out of a long time. One of the few multiplayer games I got into. It was super cool how you could morph into a squid, like, seamlessly. It was a good way to get around the map. The colors are awesome. Music's great in that game. The weapon variety, I always found my favorites, like, found a lot of different strategies. Overall, super good game. I would recommend it. Have you ever played Pac-Man World 1 and 2? No, I haven't. I'm sorry. And to answer your second question, I cannot have your babies because you are a banana, and I don't think that would work. I'm sorry. Am I going to any conventions? Probably not, just because unless I had friends going, it would kind of be a dull time for me. And I can't get time off work and school. It's just very difficult because if I missed any time, it would kind of screw me over in my life. So as much as I want to, I just can't at the moment, unfortunately. Where is the Let's Play for Shark Tale? Probably not going to do one of those. I mean, the game was better than Finding Nemo, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a game I want to replay. Will you ever do a Let's Play of Revenge of the Flying Dutchman? Probably not. If I'm ever going to do anything on that game, it's going to be a review. What is your opinion on the Spongebob Atlantis Squarepants game? I don't have one because I've never played it, but let's just say that I did buy it because it was in a used game store, so if that makes you feel better. Would you make a video going over the Nick crossover games like Nicktoons Unite, Volcano Island, Toybots, or Globs of Doom? I've only played the first one. It was pretty good because, I mean, okay, it was good when I was a kid. It's not so great now. It's kind of clunky, not super engaging. The concept was really cool. I have the second one. I think it's the Volcano Island one. I haven't played it, so probably not going to happen, to be honest. What is your opinion on Monsters Inc. Scream Arena? I don't think I played that one, sorry. When will you do SpongeBob U-Draw and Hero Pants? When I actually own either of those games. Are you going to do a Lights Camera Pants gameplay? Probably not. I don't really like to do doubles of things I have on my channel. If you want to see me and my friends play that game, I think I linked to it on Nitrous Turtle, which is a while back, so you can probably find that somewhere. And now the one request that I get a lot, and I feel it's worth addressing, the SpongeBob movie game. I really don't think that I will be doing a review on that, and let me explain. So what I did when I finished the Battle for Bikini Bottom review is that it was the big thing I did. I really wanted to get that review out because I really loved that game as a kid, and I also loved the movie game. But I knew that once I made that video, and once I got the positive reaction to it, that I wanted to do all 3 games in the series. But I didn't want to wait in between doing Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game. So the easiest way to tackle that was to do a Let's Play series. And what that did is it gave me time to build up to the Truth or Square review, which I made a year later, exactly a year later. And that was sort of the climax to the whole thing. Like, I finished the series, I said everything I wanted to about it. And looking back, if I had the option, I probably would have done a review of the movie game instead of a Let's Play. But at this point, I've already done the climax. I've already done the big thing. It would just feel like a step back to go and do the movie game. And you have 13 episodes of me just yelling about that game, so you know what my opinions are on it. So, but I feel like I could better use my time talking about games that I haven't already talked about before. Will you be reviewing any more SpongeBob erotica? So this is one that's interesting. I would only do it if you guys actually want it. Please genuinely let me know what you think of that episode that I did, because although I think a lot of people who watched it really liked it, there's a lot of people who were like, this is the worst thing. And I agree. I empathize with you. See, the weird thing about that video is that it kind of blew up in my real life, and that people know me as the SpongeBob erotica guy and don't really know my name, which is really weird, and it's not the reputation you really want. So I would love doing another one because it was genuinely a lot of fun to make, but I will only do it if you guys actually want to see one. Okay, so now on to some random questions. What is your Myers-Briggs personality type? I'm a Scorpio. How was your childhood? I don't really know how to answer this question, because I feel like I'm in a psychiatrist's office, which is weird. Like, did you think my childhood was bad just based on some of the videos I've made? Like, I swear I'm not damaged. I'm a perfectly functional person.
Before I ask my question, I just want to say that I love your work and you help me get through my week without stabbing anyone. These kind of comments are actually really cool to get. It's amazing to think that I'm helping someone get through their week when, like, I feel that way about other content creators, where, like, I would have a bad day at school and I would just go watch their stuff and it would be better. So thank you a lot for this type of comment. But now, his question was, were you lonely as a child, and if so, why? Look, why do people think I had a messed up childhood? Like, I'm perfectly fine. I can function as a human being. I wasn't lonely, okay? I had friends. So another really common question I got was, who are my favorite YouTubers, or who do I watch, or who inspired me? So basically, if you've seen anyone from Normal Boots or Hidden Block, they're a bunch of game reviewers who make a lot of cool content. They're really funny. I think a lot of people are inspired by them, though, so I don't think it's super original to say them. I will mention Matthew Matosis, who does extremely in-depth, extremely analytical, and fantastic reviews. They're not necessarily like supposed to be entertainment. They're supposed to be really, really smart and intelligent dissections of the games. So if you have time to go watch his sometimes like over hour-long reviews of games, they're fantastic. Like, he will tear apart a game that I love, and I'll be like, wow, that was a fucking good review, because he's just so great at what he does. So go check him out. I will shout out Youngtown, who is one of the most sarcastic fucking gentlemen I've ever seen on YouTube. I've showed my friends his videos, and they've been like, what? I don't get his stuff. And like, it's true. If you watch Youngtown stuff, you'll be weirded out. But I love his stuff because he does like raps, but he also does like really satirical, sarcastic stuff, which I love. If I had to give like a non-YouTube person as my inspiration, I would definitely mention all the comic strips I mentioned earlier. All of those really influenced how I like wrote my comics, but also like how I did stuff on YouTube. And then the other big one would be the guys who made HomestarRunner.com, like the Strong Bad cartoons. Like, I loved those cartoons growing up. Like, they influenced my like style of comedy so much. They were the first like thing I saw on the internet where I'm like, I want to make something like that. I want to be that person. So I think they like really helped in like directing me to do something like this eventually, even though it would have been years later before I even started this kind of thing. And like, in addition, I also spent a lot of years on the website Newgrounds, which was basically, it was before YouTube. Like, before anything like YouTube got big, it was the site where a bunch of content creators, animators, game makers would just come and post their stuff. So I spent a lot of years on Newgrounds just finding a lot of artists that I spent countless hours just watching their stuff, and I can't understate how influential those people were. So those are the people that like I look up to, the people who like kind of really influenced my style. But I also want to like talk about a few people who aren't really big. They're actually like smaller than me, just because I think like they deserve a bit more attention because they work really hard and they have stuff that is genuinely worth sharing. First up is a YouTuber called Protomac. The first video of his that I stumbled upon was like, it was a Did You Know Gaming kind of style parody of the Sonic games, where basically he starts off as if he's like telling real facts about Sonic, but you slowly like realize that he's just like spewing nonsense. It's all lies, and he just did it with such like a great voice that I was completely sold on his stuff. He recently uploaded a video about his favorite Smash Bros characters, which is actually like pretty informative, but also like really funny. So if you want to go give his channel a look. If you want to see some guys who do the live-action game review thing pretty well, then I would recommend Gus McQueen and Terrybite. But I don't know why my fans would want to watch a bunch of game reviews, like a bunch of fucking nerds. God, who even likes that? Also, shout out to my friends Charlie, Matt, Ben, Michaela. They're pretty good. So I actually got a couple of questions asking my opinion on whether or not Heavy Iron will get the license back to make more Spongebob games. So, as I'm sure you all know, I really liked the games that Heavy Iron made that involved SpongeBob. I thought they were very well made. I thought they had a lot of love put into them. But love isn't what sells games, and that is why it's no surprise to me that Activision said, no, we would prefer that you didn't make these games. You have to look at it as a business decision, because quite honestly, it is, and that's not even that bad a thing. Like, everyone likes to hate on companies for how bad they are and how they only think of themselves and profit, but it's realistic. Like, people need to survive on money that these games make, to be paid, to have money to feed their families. So like, Heavy Iron made a couple good SpongeBob games over a decade ago. Do you think Activision is really looking at that? Because if you look at the Metacritic scores for those games, they're not nearly as high as the user reviews, and that's a big distinction for big companies. Like, they're not looking at the user reviews, they're looking at like the reviews from IGN. In Activision's eyes, is Heavy Iron that much different than any other game studio? And I even addressed this in my Truth or Square review. Is Heavy Iron even really the same company? It's like, look at Rare. Rare, although it has the same name, all the people who made the fantastic games that everyone remembers, they left. They formed a new company and are doing their own thing through Kickstarter. Like, I know we all want it, but do you actually think that we're going to get something that is as good as those games that we loved as kids? Bobby, I have some questions. What got you into YouTube? How are you liking SpongeBob Creature from the Krusty Krab? Are you enjoying it? Bobby, what Let's Play are you planning on doing in the future in the name of Let's Plays? Do you eat broccoli? Do you watch SpongeBob still? What's your opinion on Bronies? Okay, so that was a hot mess. Let's do that one by one. What got me into YouTube? Just seeing people make stuff that I thought I could also do in my own style, because that's what you should always do for YouTube. Don't do it for the money, do it because you like it. Creature from the Krusty Krab, it's good. It's getting better as I play more. It's feeling less like a generic platformer and more like a thing that's trying out cool ideas, and that's really good. What Let's Play am I planning on doing in the future? I honestly don't know. I'll get back to you on that whenever I'm done the current one. Do you eat broccoli? Yes. Everyone assumes that I don't eat broccoli because it's like, oh, I'm a cannibal, but it's not. No, I'm a human. Like, I'm not actually broccoli. I made a character in a comic strip who is broccoli, but it doesn't really go beyond that. So yeah, I eat broccoli. And my opinion on bronies. To be honest, I think it's kind of weird. It's kind of like furries in that sense, like people who like things a bit too much for it to be natural. Like, if you like the show, like, whatever, that's fine. I'm not going to look down on you for it. But it gets to the point where if it's like your whole identity, where it's all your icons on social media, then that's a bit excessive, and I think you need to tone it down a bit. 3 mins! Beat that! Wait, being early is bad in a sense. Anime face thing. Why would you even post this? This isn't a question. This just makes you look bad. Dick size. A 15-inch schlong, thank you very much. If there's anything you could tell your 6-year-old self before meeting me, what would it be? Get a job. Which console did you play your video games for your reviews? I played it on whatever I owned the game on. Most of the games I play are on the GameCube, or from that era, and the GameCube was just the console I had from back then, so I played it on that. But for the most part, I just played on whatever I own the copy of. What are your thoughts on recent superhero flicks? They're pretty good. I mean, they're doing a good job of them. I'm not like a huge comic book person, to be honest. My favorite Marvel movie recently was actually Guardians of the Galaxy, which is mostly because I'm a big Star Trek sci-fi fan. Deadpool was really good because I think they tried something different with superhero movies and it worked. So I'm glad to see that stuff like that is actually being successful. But yeah, they're good. They're better than they were. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a plebeian scrub are you? JK, love your vids, don't hurt me. It's too late. You're banned. Leave. If you were to remake your Battle for Bikini Bottom review, what would you do differently? So this is actually a really interesting question. Before I even started the channel, before I made a map screen, which was early 2014, I considered the year before making a Battle for Bikini Bottom review just because that game had always stuck with me so much. And I actually have an old Word document with my original script idea for the game. I basically sat down with a laptop, started playing the game, and just took notes. It was basically just me going through every section and giving a live narration of my thoughts, which it actually kind of worked. And honestly, I don't think it was that bad. It was just not the format I wanted to go with the review. I'm actually really proud of what I put out. I think it's a very well-structured, very straightforward, concise review. It was just a different style. If I had to change anything about it, I would probably highlight a bit of the negatives a bit more because I was very overwhelmingly positive. I did talk about a couple bad things, but for the most part I didn't mention how the lighting is a bit weird in a few cases. The hit detection can be a bit spotty. It's in general easy, a bit too easy. So I would probably go back and be a little bit more neutral. It was just because it was my favorite game ever, and it was my first big review. It was my first big video of that format. So yeah, I would probably just add those changes. What are your thoughts on the SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water? So I actually went to go and see this with my friends, so I actually kind of liked it. It's not nearly as good as the first movie or even the high points of the original show. It was very random. It felt more like a bunch of episodes smashed together. It didn't have a consistent plot. It just kind of did crazy shit, which was cool. It made me laugh, but I just think it's just trying too hard to be random. It's trying too hard to be silly and just do as many silly things as possible. But overall, I would recommend it. If you're a fan of SpongeBob, then you will probably like it. What is the first video game you ever played? This is actually kind of a hard question just because I'm sure I played a bunch of video games as a kid that I don't remember. Jumpstart Toddler, I remember playing. There was this old, like, I feel like it was a DOS game. It was like, you played as a stick figure, and there was always like a gray background, and you had to jump around these platforms, and whenever you went like under certain obstacles, it would be like a cannonball that like flew down towards you. I remember watching my dad play a Doom and like Tomb Raider, which I was a bit too young to be watching because they were kind of violent, but those are the like very first memories I have of video games. So why MNF? Okay, Terry, do you really want to go there? Because you know exactly why. I don't need to answer this question, so I'm just gonna move on. What is the meaning of life? You have come to the wrong place, my friend. Have you watched every movie that is related to a movie-related game, or do you have games that are related to a movie without having watched the movie? Not really, honestly. A lot of the stuff I play, I have watched the thing before. Yeah, honestly, it's something I watched maybe years ago, but I have watched basically everything that is associated with a licensed game that I've done on my channel. Okay, so, what capture card do I use? I use a standard Elgato. Just to be clear, this isn't an endorsement of this product because I only have the one product, so I can't compare it to anything else. But this is what I use. It's pretty good. It has like fairly big file sizes, and the UI is kind of clunky, but it works. It gets the job done. Do you ever watch TV or movies? If so, what's your favorite show/movie? What's the most disappointing one you've seen? I'm actually gonna go with disappointing first. The Hobbit movies. The Hobbit movies were a big letdown because the big problem with it is that Peter Jackson, who did a great job on the first trilogy, Lord of the Rings movies, he was kind of screwed over by the studio. They kept making him do a lot of changes, like adding unnecessary love stories, making it 3 movies instead of 1. I think the movies could have worked really well as like 1 or maybe even 2 movies, but it just felt so bloated. Like, it's a prequel that wasn't nearly as like climactic or as big a deal as Lord of the Rings, but they tried to make it out to be, and it just didn't work. And I feel like Tolkien himself would have been really disappointed with the results, so that's like the big one that I've just never been happy with. Favorite show/movie? Currently Game of Thrones is the show that gets me the most excited because I'm a big fan of the show and the books. The most well-made show I'm watching is probably Better Call Saul. It's actually really surprising how well-made that show is, especially since I was surprised that it was this good because I expected it to be pretty crap since the main character was going to be the comedic relief from the original show, but the guys who make that show are so dedicated and so detailed with what they make that it's just, I would highly recommend that show. Movies, oh god, I'm really bad at picking favorite movies, so instead I'm going to choose a favorite Flash movie because I feel like this person really deserves way more recognition. Back on Newgrounds, there's this really popular series which is called There She Is. It's the story of a rabbit and a cat who fall in love, even though their society forbids that kind of love. And it's one of the most powerful and well animated and honestly beautiful pieces of animation I've ever seen. It's 5 parts. It has really good music, really good animation. It's made by one guy. It's up on YouTube. I'll link to their channel because there's a lot of like people who rehost the videos, so I'm gonna link personally to their channel, and I highly recommend that you go check that out. It's one of the most fantastic and significant pieces of animation from like this millennium, honestly. Do you like the new Spongebob episodes or not? I honestly haven't seen a lot of the new ones because I stopped watching years ago. I think I stopped watching them regularly around season 5 because I was getting too old and I just stopped watching the channels they appeared on. But I've occasionally like gone on Netflix and watched some of the new ones. It just doesn't have the same quality anymore. It's not terrible. They've been getting better. They've had some really, really bad episodes, like the one where SpongeBob gets a splinter. They rely too much on like gross out shots and like hyper realistic characters with big muscles, and that just doesn't work because you know how they had that scene in the movie where David Hasselhoff comes on and he's like all muscular, and that's silly because it's David Hasselhoff. That joke just doesn't work anymore because they have these hyper realistic characters who just look out of place. It's like what happened to The Simpsons. Because The Simpsons looked way more cartoony in the early seasons, but now they keep having to make all the characters more and more realistic and the celebrities look more realistic, and it just doesn't fit. I feel like that's kind of what happened to SpongeBob, and it's just not the same anymore. Not terrible, but it's just not the same. What type of games do you enjoy more, story-driven or arcadey? I like both, honestly, but I'd probably lean to arcadey more just because it's a better way to like spend time. You can just jump into something, jump out. It's not like you have to dedicate a whole lot of time, many hours. RPGs I'm really bad at because they're a huge time investment, even though they have fantastic stories, which I usually end up loving. So I'd probably lean to Arkady just because I don't have a whole lot of time to play games and it's easier to jump into for me. When it comes to movies, which do you like better, animated or live action? Definitely as a kid, I liked animated way more than live action. I actually used to call live action movies the ones with real people because, you know, it had real people, it had footage. I think the first like live action movie that I actually like watched was Rat Race. I don't know why it was Rat Race, but Rat Race was like the first time I'm like, okay, these real people movies, they're not so bad. I really liked animated as a kid because, I don't know, I just liked the worlds that they could build. They had a lot more freedom with what they could show on screen. But I probably lean to live action more as an adult, just because I relate to it more. Because you can do a lot with subtle performances. Animation can do a lot, but it can't really showcase stuff like minute facial animations like live action can. What was your favorite console, and what was your first? Favorite, probably go with the GameCube, because that was the one that I first bought with my own money. It was the first one that I'm like, I'm gonna buy this, I'm gonna own this. My parents helped me buy it, like the controllers and the games, but I was the one who bought the GameCube. My first console, however, was a Super NES. It was at a garage sale. This was like 10 years after the Super NES came out, by the way, but I still played a bunch of games on it, like Super Mario World. I had the All-Stars cart. It was also where I played Porky Pig's Haunted Holiday, so hey, go check out that video. If you actually played Skyrim, please say this quote for everyone who is playing Skyrim. I have not played Skyrim, so I will not say it. What was the first video you watched? I don't fucking know. Like, why is everyone asking these hard questions? Okay, I remember back before YouTube was a thing, my dad had some videos saved onto his computer because I think they were like kind of the equivalent of what memes would be called today. And there were a bunch of like funny videos. One of them was a monkey like drinking his piss, which was probably like super hilarious back in the day. But some other ones were commercials, and one of them was like for a cell phone company, and the companies were represented by like two sumo wrestlers, and like the better cell phone company was represented by a bigger sumo wrestler who sat on the smaller sumo wrestler, and the smaller sumo wrestler went up his ass. And this was an actual ad, and I remember this, and I don't even know how this got on the air, but that was a thing that happened apparently. And the other one was, the other video was something about salmon, and like the salmon was so good that this guy would attack a bear. Like it was a fisherman on like a lake, and he had a fight with a guy in a bear suit, and he kicked the bear in the balls, and the and the bear just like fell down. It was so weird, but those were like the first like equivalent of like YouTube kind of videos that I remember, but that was like way before YouTube even existed, so I hope that answers your question. Where is the best place to hide a body? In space. Question, what is your favorite level of music track of Spongebob Battle for Bikini Bottom? Favorite level, probably going to go with Goo Lagoon, just because it has a lot of variety. You start out on a beach, you go to some caves, a big sandcastle, a carnival, so that's probably my favorite level. Favorite music track's a bit harder. Probably going to go with Downtown Bikini Bottom for the SpongeBob. Probably going to go with Downtown Bikini Bottom and the Industrial Park one, because they're both very different kinds of music, but they do the kind they're like trying to be very well. When is your birthday? October 30th. I actually have a few questions. Number 1, do you like the missiles in SpongeBob the Movie video game 1 out of 102? Are you going to do a playthrough of the Flying Dutchman? I didn't misspell this. Are you a goofy goober? You're a goofy goober. We're all goofy goobers. Yeah, goofy goober. Okay. So that was another hot mess. But to answer your questions, no, I don't like the missiles. Number 2, probably not going to do a Let's Play of that. And number 3, thank you. Exactly how much do you love the fact that your One Piece video got blocked? Please use a visual representation if necessary. No, God! Also, this isn't a question, but this guy's really nice, so I want to thank him. You're the best. What is the worst video game you've ever played? This one's kind of a hard question, because if I'm talking about like the worst, absolute worst game, probably like some Flash game that some amateur made online, but like that's not really fair. It's like their first game and they're not a professional, so. But on the other hand, if we're talking about like big professional companies who spent a lot of money to make a video game that just turned out like shit, I'm probably gonna go with Sonic and the Black Knight. I played that like with my friend Matt like the whole way, and it's just it's a piece of work, that game. It's just so silly, and the controls are a mess, and it just doesn't make sense of parts, and it's just there's bugs, and it's just like, why did this get made? Like, man, it's funny to play with friends, but just if I had to play that on my own, like, nah, I'm checking out. If SpongeBob never existed, what would be the next best thing you would like? Not sure, honestly. Maybe the Fairly Odd Parents, because it was like a similar show on a similar network. I mean, it's hard to like say when you don't really like know what the world would have been like if something didn't exist. Maybe another show would have been there to take SpongeBob's place. So probably some other Nickelodeon show, honestly. What is your favorite part about Battle for Bikini Bottom? Probably like the open world of just like the hub world. I liked going into the houses that I loved from the show. I really liked that aspect, so probably gonna go with that. PS2, Xbox, or GameCube generation, or current? If I had more than just a Wii U, then I might be able to answer this question. But there's a lot of games coming out recently that I just can't play because I don't have something that can play them because the Wii U is really limited. I am considering buying something because there's stuff like The Witcher that I really want to play, Bloodborne. So at the moment, the GameCube generation, just because I have more games that I can play from that era. But yeah, I would honestly have to like get back to you on that. Question, what is your favorite non-licensed video game? Okay, so that's actually kind of hard. I hate choosing favorites because it's like, I don't know, there's lots of things that I like. Jeez. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and say Red Dead Redemption because I 100% did that game. I actually rebought it recently because I borrowed it from a friend, so I bought my own copy now, and I'm replaying it, and it's like, this game is just as amazing as I remember when I first played it. Red Dead Redemption, although with a lot of flaws, is one of the most fun and just immersive games I've ever played. The world is so diverse and just, it looks like clearly people spent time making this. The weather, all the animals, all the small details you can do, and the story, like the ending to that game is so perfect. It's just, I love playing it, and I will play that game like any time of the day. I love that game so much. So yeah, Red Dead Redemption, go play that. How many times a day do you watch SpongeBob porn? If I could watch negative SpongeBob porn, I would. I honestly would. What is your favorite sport to play and watch? I'm gonna go with squash, because squash is one of the coolest sports to play and watch, because it's so fast, the ball's going everywhere, and it's in such a small space. When you get into a rhythm and you're like hitting the ball back between you and your opponent, it's so different than most sports because it's so fast and everything happens like a split second can mean the difference between you and a point. And man, I just love squash. I'm sorry, I want to go play squash now. Favorite SpongeBob episode? And P.S. Ignore my username, I know it's bad. Look, man, you realize that nobody would have paid attention to your username unless you mentioned it. So this is on you. I feel like everyone says Band Geeks just because of the ending. I really like the one where they form the League of like Justice thing with Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, where they get all the like superhero suits. I always really like that one, so I'm gonna go with that. Okay, so what is my favorite anime? Because I already kind of mentioned video game. Psycho-Pass is probably my favorite anime. It doesn't fall into any of the like tropes that a lot of anime have. Specifically the first season, although the second season is pretty good too. I watched the whole series in a span of about 2 days because it was just so enthralling. Because it's part like crime thriller, but also like part just sci-fi spectacle. And honestly, if you haven't seen it, please go watch Psycho-Pass. It's incomparable to most things. Who are some of your favorite bands and what instruments do you play? Favorite bands? I'm honestly like not super into music. I tell people this all the time and they give me weird looks. I just don't follow bands. Like, I'm not the kind of person who listens to a lot of stuff. I mostly just like grew up listening to the stuff that my dad had on the radio. Like I might like certain songs, Elton John. But instruments I played the saxophone, the alto, and the baritone saxophone, which is like the small one and then the big one. Alto I way preferred because the baritone is heavy as hell, not super fun to play. The alto you can do a bunch of cool stuff with. Kind of learned piano for a bit, but I wasn't nearly as good because I didn't practice nearly as much as I did the saxophone. Okay, so what programs and equipment do you use to make your videos? I use Sony Vegas, which is pretty good. I mean, I'm sure there are better things out there, but that's what I have. And for drawing, I use Autodesk Sketchbook Pro. Did you make any videos before starting this channel? Kind of, yeah. In grade 8, I made a video, in French, mind you, about the Klondike Gold Rush, which was like a Canadian gold rush thing. My teacher really liked it. Like, she was like, man, you should go into like acting, and I'm like, okay, calm down there. I didn't think it was that good. But no, it was actually like a cool experience because we came up with like a skit in a couple of hours, filmed it. I even had like a Lego stop motion animation thing in it, which was really cool. There's also a few videos on my second channel, which if you can find it, then that's cool, but I'm not going to give you the name here, of me, my sister, and my friend's brother just dancing to songs. We would just dance to songs and make like dance routines. So that's online somewhere. But after that, I came back to this original channel and started making the videos I do now. Any major acting roles? No, because I hate being in front of crowds. I'm just so bad at it. I'm sure, like, if I just forced myself to, like, do that sort of thing, I could do it. It's just, like getting over that hump of trying out and, like, not embarrassing myself. I hate that. I hate trying out for stuff. Take any classes on filmmaking? No, I mostly just, like, look at films and stuff that I really like and try to emulate that. I think that's what a lot of people do. Basically what I do is I look at people that I really like their stuff and I say, well, this was all like really good, but I would change this little one thing just because I would find it a bit funnier, and that's like my own little twist that I put on it, and that's how I make my own little style. If you could do a video with any other YouTuber, who would it be with and what would the video be about? I would love to do a Did You Know Gaming on SpongeBob and be the person who gets to voice it. I would love to do a SpongeBob episode for Did You Know Gaming and get to voice it. It's probably not going to happen, but if anyone wants to go tell Shane at Did You Know Gaming that I would love to do it, then that would be great. What game do you think you're best at? I was pretty good at Rayman Legends. I unlocked everything in that game except the final costume because it was basically, I'd have to do a bunch of grinding for money and that's stupid, but I'm going to go with Rayman Legends. What is your favorite theme pack? I assume you mean theme park. I haven't been to a whole lot. I like ones with big roller coasters. I really like big roller coasters. So I'm just going to go with Canada's Wonderland because it had some pretty good ones. Are you a fan of uncooked carrots? Sure. So basically what he's asking is, would I prefer a remake of Battle for Bikini Bottom or would I prefer a new game from Heavy Iron about SpongeBob? Honestly, I'd rather they try something new. As much as I love the old games, I would like to see them come up with new ideas and just see what they could do. What are you? I don't know, Raging Bear, what are you? Play Rhythm Heaven. Okay then. Here is me getting a medal on Remix 10 of Rhythm Heaven Fever. That is actual footage of me doing that. You're welcome. How/who made your little character? I did. I used the drawing programs that came with my tablet, and I just fooled around until I came up with a style that I kind of wanted. Because, like, I knew I wanted to make, kind of like an Egoraptor kind of thing, you know, in a sequelitis. I wanted to make a character that represented me, so I just tried out a few styles, worked with stuff that, like, kind of followed my BobbyBroccoli style from my comics, and I ended up with this, which was the very first drawing of my character. And as you can see, it's changed quite a bit, and yeah, it's just interesting to see the development of my character as I slowly draw it more and more, and I got a style that I was really happy with. So yeah, that's how my character was made. So this guy actually has 3 questions, 2 of which I think I answered earlier, so I'm going to skip those. But the third one is, do you feel that with the recent release of Ratchet & Clank on PS4, Playtonic Games Yooka-Laylee, and the crowd-funded 3D platforming games Skylar and Plux, that big-budget 3D platformers will be making a return? I hope so. I like games where moving around in a 3D environment is the fun part. Like, the reason you're doing it isn't necessarily why you care, it's just the idea that you can. I like big open worlds, I like big, colorful environments. So yeah, I hope it is, I think it is, and we'll see how those games turn out. So anyway, I would like to thank everyone who left me a question. Super great that you guys like my stuff and that you guys actually care about my opinion. I do have stuff coming in the future. I'm currently working on like a big series, a multi-video series that I'm really excited for. It'll be a little bit of a while before it comes out though, so stay tuned and thank you for watching.